I see it as there's really four things that help you establish kind of this cult-like customer base. So I'm gonna start kicking it off. The first one is, and this is like the most obvious, but I'm gonna give examples of why, is your values. And then there's a few layers underneath your values. And I know it sounds like lame to be like, okay, we have to establish our values, but I actually think it's important because there was a brand that we were talking to last week. And so when we were talking about, they're super successful, like 8-figure brand, absolutely crushing it. But we were talking about like, how do we feel like, or how do we get to a point where we know we have a cult-like customer base? And this is kind of where this all stems from. And it was like, okay, I would know I had a cult-like customer base if tomorrow I said, hey, there's an event pop up right here this time, and 50, 100 people showed up. Right? Like, that's how I would know, okay, like people care about this brand, not just, hey, it's a good product, they use the product and it's just like solving a problem. Like I would know, okay, I got something there. And even like the way we were talking about it is like, because like their end goal is to create that. And so what we were thinking about is like, okay, the KPI then, every 90 days, every quarter, they should be throwing an event and seeing, like, kind of measuring how many people are showing up at these events to understand, okay, like we're starting to build that brand affinity, that brand loyalty with these individuals. And so your story and your mission play into that. You have to understand your values, like as a brand. And so kind of workshopping it on the call, we were talking about it, and they haven't like laid the groundwork for what that is. And so if you have no values that your team is like cemented in, then there's no values for then the end consumer or customer to be cemented in, or to be like feel like they have any kind of relation with. And so when I look at brand stories and then how they then play into the mission to like create this overarching values that people are connected to, I look at the story. And so I look at, like, for example, Seed. So I'm sure you know the company Seed.
Yeah.
So the reason she even started that company was because she was interested in microbiomes. And then while she was breastfeeding her son, she learned and realized how important breast milk is for an infant's microbiome, right? That was like the genesis of this. You look at Jocko, and I think I talked about this on a pod 1 or 2 pods ago. Like, you look at Jocko, he was taking a well-known supplement brand called Muscle Milk. And as he was taking it, then he learned that it just had all like these heavy metals and leads in it. He's like, fuck, like I'm giving this to my kids as well. Right. And that all of a sudden they created this problem. And it was like the genesis of, okay, I need to find a solution. Yeti is like the same thing. You look at Yeti coolers. The reason they even created Yeti coolers was they would go fishing, and they'd be I think they lived in like Florida and Texas or something like that. And like if you were on a bass boat, they would always be standing on the coolers to be able to fish, and like it would always break down. It wasn't resistant to the heat in Texas, like all of these different things. And so it was like this genesis of, okay, there's a story here that I could build off of that people will resonate with. Once somebody resonates with a story, then you have to get them. It's like your entry point to getting them to rally behind the mission. And so the mission is the next layer of, okay, we have this story. This is the thing that like we experienced, and I know other people probably experience and can resonate with it. Now we have to create this mission, this thing that the only way that this becomes a reality and you achieve this is by having a customer base. And so again, when I was on that call with Jocko or Jocko's team, and they were talking about like, here's the story, here's the mission. There's 2 parts to it, actually. The mission was, okay, I faced this problem. Jocko faced this problem of no clean products, lead, heavy metals in the supplements. Therefore, I need to find the solution. And now I want to, this has like irked me that to the point where I want to create a brand and get as many clean products into as many people's hands as possible. Even to the point where like when we were on a Black Friday call with their team, and like we're throwing content ideas back and forth, one of the guys on their team, Carrie, was like, I want to be very adamant about this, but like we're a mission driven brand. Like we don't just say, or we don't care about just being like 40% off or 30% off. Or
You mean Jocko is mission driven?
I know, right?
Wow.
Wow. Shocker.
Groundbreaking shit.
No,
Sweat
but
equity
I think
today,
it's a
Will.
good thing to say, like, and to give insight in, because from the outside, it could be like, oh, it's just like shilling content. And
he's just like probably
exactly.
He might be like top 5 like mission based dudes I've ever seen.
For sure.
It's
For
like
sure.
him,
But
him
you
and
would think,
Goggins are
oh,
neck
like
and
he's
neck.
selling a supplement because he built up this brand. And it's like, when we were on that call, like he like stopped, the guy stopped the call and was like, I want to be very clear, like we were very mission driven, because like we were starting with content ideas and like kind of just brainstorming. Yeah. And we're like, well, is Jocko down for funny ideas? Is he like, where's the pendulum here?
Yeah.
And he was just like, I want to be very clear, like we're very mission driven. Like we don't just say like we care about clean products and clean in people's hands. Like that is our thing. Like we really care about that. So Black Friday now is like the amplifier for that. You know what I mean? Like Black Friday is now a chance to discount it and get into as many people's hands as possible. But it was just this idea of, okay, that is the mission. And like the only way that mission is possible is to get customers.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when I think about the mission, your mission is how you take, like, to put this into something concrete, your mission is how you take this story and you position it in a way where it only becomes a reality if you get customers, right? I think that's the key element of understanding how to create and position a story, and then how to take your mission, position it properly where like every customer is another way of you amplifying this mission. I'm gonna go into the second part. So unless you want to drop anything there.
No, I think another example of why they might be interesting for people is because, you know, Jocko obviously has this mentality of fitness and personal responsibility and stuff like that. And so his mission being different than that is interesting. This being something that's directly tied to health and ingredients and fixing that side of things versus, you know, pursuing some sort of like fitness goal.
Yeah.
I think is not necessarily what you would expect out of him. And so it's a good separation of creator and brand too, because a lot of people just kind of spill their creator brand into their physical brand, and that doesn't always have to be the case. So that's 100%. Interesting.
100%. The next layer, and this is something that I think is becoming even more prominent, like something that we're seeing even more and more of amongst brands, is just in-person experiences and events. So really community. I'm going to give 2 examples that I really like, or 3 examples that I really liked, but the whole goal of in-person experiences and events is to turn customers into a community. You don't just have a community day one. People confuse audience with community, and they're so different. Audience is, I put something out and it reaches people, that's an audience. But if those people don't communicate with each other, they don't have any relationship with each other, you don't have a community, right? I think that was a really good image that one of the guys from The Hustle, Ethan Brooks, made, where it showed like just the difference between an audience and community. Most people don't have it. They think they have it just because they built an audience. Even for us, like we don't have a community around sweat equity. You look at somebody like My First Million, they do, because they have, I'm sure you've seen it, but like they have all these.
Yeah, they do the meetups,
events.
the events, all that.
Exactly. We start layering that in. Like that's how we're going to then create the community. So just to give people that framing. One that I really liked was Bandit Running. So they actually are doing something right now where, or I don't know if it's currently going on or if it just finished up for the New York Marathon, because I think they're in Soho or somewhere in New York. But anyways, they're
in the West Village.
Yeah. They did 16-week training for marathon in person. And so it was this thing like you had to apply to it. They were only going to accept, I don't know if it was 50 to 100 people. And with that, then they were going to meet up twice a week. They were going to go through nutrition, the workout programs, meet up, train together. And like all of a sudden they created this 16-week experience where it's completely tied to Bandit. And then it's also tied around something that's very like goal driven, right? A marathon. If for some people, like this is their first marathon, there's an emotion attached to this where I complete my first marathon and now I go like, thank you to Bandit Running, right? Like I'm attaching something very like I'm attaching a brand to something very emotional or like something very goal oriented in my life, which I love. And so, and the reason for this is we talked about this, I think, with the honeydew, where it's like you want people to associate memories and one-of-one experiences with a brand, because that's how you feel like you always have like this lasting relationship with a brand.
Yeah.
There's another cosmetic company called Too Faced Cosmetic. I don't know if you've heard of them. No. But they held like they're a brand that's like kind of Barbie-ish, right? Like all pink, their feed's all pink. And so like when you think about that, you think about like the very girly girls that wear all pink, all that kind of stuff, right? They held an all pink tennis tournament where like the court was pink, the balls were pink, the bags were pink, like everything given to the individual that came was pink, right? And so when we think about like what your brand is standing for and what it puts out into that world, and then you're able to take that and put it into some like real life experience for your top customers, that's how you start like turning these customers into like this community driven where all of a sudden all these people are interacting with each other. They get to find the other people that are like them and become friends with them and get to know them and follow them. And all of a sudden it's like you just have like this entire kind of gang, right, of individuals that you're building. I thought this was interesting when I was at the CrossFit Games. So there's HWPO, which is like the programming I follow, right? And HWPO at the CrossFit Games, they rented out an entire hotel and they turned it into like the HWPO compound or hotel or something like that. And the reason for it was they turned it into a 4-day event for everybody that was an HWPO member. And so like I'm an HWPO member. There's like HWPO Pro and then just like regular HWPO. And they turned the hotel right into like this 4-day thing where from morning till sunset, there was events going on that you can partake in with other members the entire time. And the entire goal, right? And that must have cost a lot of money is that's retention based. Like, yeah, there's probably some events that were open to the public, but in a reality, it's like a retention tool where you're getting all of these people together that are members and that all have this common goal. And now they all get to hang and train and kick it together. Right. And so I love this idea of like hosting, doing things offline to acquire customers, doing in-person things in real life to retain customers. Anything there?
No.
I know. I know you and I have already talked about like a lot of community stuff. I was even thinking about this to like brainstorming a little bit as I was going through this doc. I think it would be cool to like to do a community event in here where we bring brands in and it's just like ideation. Like you come with a problem and everybody in the room or like you and I or me or whatever, like we ideate like how to solve that problem.
Yeah.
You
I
can't
mean, a
get
lot
your
of brands are having the same issues. You know, it seems like most people just don't understand like what to create. Everyone knows they need content, but they don't know what to make.
Yeah.
And then, you know, to that point, sometimes you have to create events to even have content around.
Yeah.
That's part of the investment is a lot of these community focused things that you're talking about are a great opportunity to put customers in front of the camera and have them speak authentically about your stuff while, you know, they're in a great state of mind with the products.